Do we need adversity to lead the life we truly want? Do we need adversity to truly transform and create that life? Together, Hannah and I are going to share our stories. Hannah, a millennial, born in the 90s. Myself, a baby boomer, born in the 60s. Our intent is to create change, and I hope you enjoy this talk. So we're all a channel of change. We're all part of a DNA that moves through. So I was born in the 1960s as a baby boomer, but of course my parents were part of the silent generation. Don't speak your pain. My parents, born of the greatest generation, the generation that fought in 2 world wars. We can't imagine what that was like. The things they saw, the pain their parents endured. My father talks of his school days, how he was told, "Your fathers died for you." He was told duty, honour, obey, be loyal, hold your emotions in. You really don't have any right to have them. At school, constantly they were repeated these stories. At home, he had amazing parents, but they'd endured a lot. So how does that impact a baby boomer generation? Many of people in the room here and beyond. How does that impact the way we handle our adversity, our lives? What do we have permission to feel and share? For me, I had amazing parents, but emotionally, I was crushed. I wanted to share my emotions, to feel my pain, and to be allowed to acknowledge it. I sat in my room dealing with my problems, like many people that I talk to. I learned to be highly independent, incredibly independent, to the point that I didn't think it would be right to ask for help. I was taught to work really hard. In fact, in a recent test, I got 95% on conscientiousness. To be balanced, I'd have had 50%. I learned that the world was more about you than about me. That meant I loved you all, but I didn't love myself. I didn't know how to. I didn't know how to value myself. I didn't know how to speak my truth out loud. Everyone has their own breaking point, and at 54 I had mine. Mother of 3, incredible husband, beautiful life, an OBE. What on earth could possibly be wrong with Penny Power? But inside I had emotions that were so trapped. I'd endured a lot, but I didn't accept that they were my pain. I accepted that they were the pain of others. On the 30th of November 2017, I was delivering a workshop to about 40 people. They all knew me as Penny Power, OBE, the shiny version of Penny Power online. At the time, I was going through massive stress in my business life. And during this workshop, 40 faces in front of me started to morph into the faces of other people. It was quite incredible. It was like living in my own horror story, to see faces literally shifting and changing in front of me. I couldn't understand it. I couldn't believe it was happening. I thought I was in some Dan Brown Saturday evening show. I couldn't actually believe it was happening, and the strength inside me said it's not happening. And I carried on for 4 hours with this happening over and over again. That evening I took myself to hospital, believing I'd had a stroke or a bleed on my brain. And I was told there was nothing neurologically wrong with you, Penny, you're absolutely fine. My son Ross collected me off the train, and he insisted that I went to see a doctor to talk about this. Next morning I felt fine again. Don't need any help. But I owed it to my son to look at what had happened. And when I went to my GP, she said to me, "Penny, look at what you've been through." And she had noted down along the way the loss of a business that we loved after 14 years, that we adored, a community of people worldwide, some of the people in this room, the effect that had on our self-worth and our life, the scarcity we went into, the loss of our house. And not only that, my mother suffering dementia, my sister losing her beautiful daughter, my brother dying of cancer, and then my amazing daughter being abducted and raped. At last, somebody was saying to me, Penny, you have to deal with this. What I learned through the process of seeing a psychologist and going through therapy was we hold on to emotions that we shouldn't. The baby boomer brought up by the silent generation doesn't know how to express them, accept them, and acknowledge them, and allow them into their lives. So they suppress them. The healthy way to deal with an emotion is to allow it to go up. And when you allow it to go up and peak, you acknowledge it, you accept it, you feel it, and then you file it. And it becomes part of your history, but not part of your future. On this, it shows time, and time can be seconds, minutes, hours, or for me, 54 years of not allowing that to happen in my life. What I did was what most people do, is I'd feel the emotion, I would then jump off. And that loops round and round again until it starts to impact you. And it took me 54 years for it to really impact me. And what was happening is I was being defensive. I was hurt inside. My resilience was really reducing. My ability to cope with anything more. But I was carrying on. What I was told is there are big T's, big traumas that happen to people. And then there are little T's that are the ones you see. I stand here now more whole than I've ever felt in my life. Quite incredible, because this said, you are allowed to break. And I put my pieces together. I'm now going to introduce you to the baby boomer, the millennial, my daughter, this incredible generation. I'm that channel of change, and she is who I want to be when I grow up.
On March 18th, 2016, whilst visiting friends in France, I was kidnapped by 3 men and raped. This launched me into a new world, into a club I never wanted to be a part of, a club of secrecy, of loneliness, of I don't know what to say, and I can't imagine how you must feel. It was a club I knew existed, but it was not one that I thought was going to enter my life. Believed it was reserved for pages of newspapers, films, BBC dramas. Before this happened, I lived a relatively normal Farnham life. I had graduated from university, been traveling around Southeast Asia, and moved up to London to start my graduate job. I was excited to be an adult. I was excited for my life. But unfortunately, this had pulled the rug out from under me. Now, I had one thing going for me here, because in that car, I had actually thought that that was the end for me. So I had something inside of me which was full of gratitude, because I had a chance to go again. So I decided to go on a 3-year journey of healing, of discovery, of understanding. It's only in the darkness that you can see the stars, and you have to have the lows to see the highs. The rest of this talk is going to tell you what I learned over the last 3 years, in the hope that maybe it can change some minds, or just to make you feel less alone on your own journeys. The first thing that I had to change and understand were my beliefs. The stories I had collected along the way, the stories I had told myself, that others had told me, that society had told me. Beliefs about what was possible, what wasn't possible, what my life was or wasn't. It took a while. It took a lot of space. It took moving to a different country on the other side of the world. It took a lot of reading, writing, and understanding. But I gradually started to understand and believe that my beliefs could be changed. that I didn't have to feel this way, that the sky wasn't the limit, in fact, the sky was limitless. And the problem is with our minds is that what we see and the way we see things is how they are. And the first step for me was changing those beliefs. After that came a big burst of action, a big amount of responsibility that I realized that the only person who could change my life was me. The only person who could make things better or make things worse was me. And that starts small. It started super small, with unfollowing a load of people on Instagram that made me feel crap, or hanging out with people that made me feel less than. And those small things started to compound and started to grow, and I started to really realize the impact you can have by taking responsibility, because you can inspire other people to do the same. So I'd like to ask you whether you think there are things in your life that perhaps you could take responsibility for, that maybe you could change the way you see things, change the way you deal with things, move from a place of blame or anger to a place of freedom, of love. Now, I thought I was done. I was like, smashed it. I spent 2.5 years doing this, and at the beginning of this year, I came back after Christmas. I moved back to Bali, and I thought, tick, like self-development, life done. And then this thing happened where I was so scared. I was so scared that the person I had become and the mind I had created wasn't going to be around. What if I lost it? What if I fell off the wagon, the happy wagon? And I wanted to, not only that, I wanted to feel more. I wanted to feel more connected. I was no longer really interested in me. I was more interested in we. So I turned to a book, which had been on my Audible account, and we've all got them, where someone's told you to read it, and you've bought it with that free credit that you get at the beginning, and then it sits there, and you move phones, and it's still there. And I decided to read it. And it was a book about faith. And this wasn't faith of a bearded man who walks on water. This was the faith in something bigger than me, in the universe. And what I realized that by taking responsibility for my actions every day, I had moved into a state of control, a state of fear of what those outcomes were then going to be. When actually, by stepping back and having faith that by doing the right things and by taking those small steps, the outcomes were going to come and the right thing was going to go on my path. So, why am I talking about this when we're talking about the future is now? Because actually a huge amount of this was made possible by technology and the world that we live in. By being ever connected, by social media, by YouTube, by Instagram, by blogs, by being able to follow people who'd been through similar journeys, or to then share my journey for other people to see. I am a millennial. I am 26. And we are now here. We're on your tail. We're here to lead. But there is a mismatch between thinking about what we believe to be true being wrong, when actually maybe we believe things that are different. Maybe we're willing to take responsibility for the world that we live in. We're a generation of veganism, of plastic-free, of sustainability, of disruption. And we are looking for that connection, that faith. Yoga, meditation, more apps on your phone, things you again leave there for when you're ready. So, did I need the adversity? I think I did. I think beforehand I'd been through enough challenges to have a good grounding, but I think I worried about things that potentially I didn't need to worry about. And the universe knew better. The universe knew the path it wanted me to be on. Fortunately, we all have adversity. We all have our own challenges, some huge, some tiny, some external, some internal. But we all have the chance to take responsibility for our lives and to use those challenges for good. And by becoming the leader of your life, you can inspire other people to do the same.